Hi, this is Denise.
Hey, this is Maggie.
Welcome to our podcast, Candor and Courage at Work.
Denise and I have known each other for a long time, a couple of decades, HR pros, and we thought it might be helpful if we got together and shared some of the things that we've learned along the way.
That's right, Maggie. Many struggle with being candid and being courageous, and we just want to use what we've learned to help you use those traits in your daily work life.
Here's hoping that makes you more successful. And here we go. Hey, before we begin our conversation with Medicare Misty, we thought some context might be helpful for our listeners. Denise and I met Misty at a local human resources event, and subsequent to that meeting, got the opportunity to talk with her and learn her story. In doing so, and in her learning about candor and courage at work, we agreed that it would be wonderful to share her story of courage as an encouragement to others. So with that, we'll get underway. Hey, Denise.
Hi, Maggie.
Well, today we're joined by our third ever guest, Medicare Misty.
Medicare Misty, well known in the Chattanooga area, but for our listeners outside the area, I'm going to jump right off here and just say welcome, Medicare Misty.
Thank you.
So for those of our listeners that are not familiar with Medicare Misty, why don't you just give us a real brief description of what that is?
Sure. So I've been doing Medicare for 21 years, and it was actually a God thing because I was working at a local company, and then they had a huge layoff, and then I interviewed 25 times for pharmaceutical, and I didn't get it, but this lady came in and said, "Hey, do you want to do Medicare?" And I thought, what's Medicare? Just like most when it comes to that time. What is Medicare? And she said, "Don't worry about it. I'll teach you everything you need to know, and they'll love you." And I was like, okay. And so in 2005, I started with HealthSpring, opened the office here, and I help seniors or anybody that is disabled and approved for Medicare on their prescription options, their supplement options, or if they want to go the Advantage Plan route that has all the benefits of dental, vision, and hearing.
It really is a complicated subject. I'm glad that there are folks like Medicare Misty that can walk us through those decisions. And it's not just for folks that are seeking it for themselves. It's actually for people that might be helping their parents to make those decisions. Because
Absolutely.
It's a lot, right?
Yeah. And they don't understand it either. So they come to the children or a neighbor or a friend that says, "Hey, have you been through this? Can you help me choose?" And I think the only wrong thing about that is that their situation is different than your situation. So it's good to go to an expert like me to say, "Hey, here's my prescriptions. Here's my doctors that I see. This is kind of what I need in healthcare," because you're going to be different than your friends, your neighbor, or, your parents. So I kind of do a basic plan that fits each person's needs.
But also, annually, you have the choice to make again.
Yes.
So like October will open up open enrollment for Medicare. And so life may change, medical issues may change. And so you may need to migrate to a different plan. So you help folks not just enrolling in Medicare, but also with other annual enrollment decisions.
And that's exactly right, because the plans do change, and there's been a lot of changes where plans have terminated and that plan's not renewing for the next year, or their prescription's not covered next year, their doctor's not covered next year. So every October 1st, they send out a letter, the carriers, called Annual Notice of Change. We call it ANOC. But it'll say ANOC and then say Annual Notice of Change. You want to read that letter. If you don't read anything else, because you get a lot of junk mail, read that letter from the insurance that you're with now. That says, this is what you have now. This is what it's going to. If you're totally happy, it just rolls over. You don't have to do anything. You can say, "I love it. I'm sticking." But if it says, "Hey, your doctor's not going to be covered next year, prescription's not going to be covered," or maybe it's higher, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, my copay just doubled," then you want to say, "Hey, Missy, is there anything else out there that's cheaper? I am licensed in 45 states and Puerto Rico. And if it's 5 of the states that I'm not licensed in, then I can get that license too."
Just professionally speaking, in the HR world, we we're not allowed to coerce or push our people to go to Medicare. But really, if you're of age, you ought to look at your employer's plan if they have medical insurance and compare it with your Medicare options, because Medicare may be the better choice even over the plan that your employer has.
Well, and we were talking today about, a deductible being like $6,000. Like, that's high for Medicare. Medicare's highest deductible is $17,000. So if your deductible is higher than that and you're over the age of 65, or you're disabled and working, or disabled and on your spouse's coverage, and your deductible is higher than that, or they're paying $200 to $300 to $400 a month just for you for coverage, definitely compare. Let's compare it. A lot of people, spouses didn't realize, well, I didn't realize my spouse could get off my plan if they have Medicare and go to Medicare. And I've saved them tons of money because they just didn't realize that was available. One lady was disabled and didn't realize she could get Medicare or a Medicare Advantage before the age of 65 because she was disabled before the Medicare eligible time. So it's a free call is what I always say. MedicareMisty.com is the best way to reach us. It's just a free call to make sure you're in the right plan and make sure that it's the right plan every October. Like you said, you have till December 7th every year. And then if you didn't choose anything, it rolls over to the next year. But there may be another election period that you may have another option.
Well, this is great information. I'm getting to the age where I'm going to have to call Medicare Misty, and luckily now I've met her. So
there you go.
I'll already have an intro. But yeah, for those of our listeners that are interested for themselves or for their loved ones, please reach out. We'll have more contact information on the website as well as other social media posts. So thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're really thrilled to invite you to join us, not only because of the good that you do for the folks that you're meeting the needs of, but the larger story and how your desire to help others was something that started for you very early in life. Came to Chattanooga to attend UTC and live with your grandparents. But for our listeners, fill in the missing things there. What's the context? What did you come to study and how did that evolve?
Well, my parents were 16 when they had me, so I wanted something different and thought that there's bigger things out there. We think of Vegas and we think of LA, and I was in this little town that had, when we got a Walmart, the town was excited. So that tells you how small this town was. And I said, how am I going to get these big dreams in this little bitty old town? And so my grandparents lived in Chattanooga, Tennessee, actually Soddy Daisy on the mountain, which is a suburb of Chattanooga. And they said, why don't you come out here and, we'll get you into school here. So I said, that'd be great. My parents didn't have any money at that time. My grandparents didn't have a lot, but a little bit more than my parents. And so I applied for UTC, got in it, did 4 years, graduated with a psychology degree. And my parents said, if you went to college, you're going to be rich.
Okay.
And then next thing I know, my first job out of college was $15,000. And I was like, a year, like not a month, a year, not 6 annually. And I was just like, what are you talking about? How am I going to live off this money? And so I started studying, and a friend of mine that were real close, she said, you need to get into sales. And I was like, I don't want to talk anybody into anything. That's just not me. And she's like, no, we're selling every day. So like if the restaurant we just went to, we just totally gave them a good review. We already sold the restaurant. If we go to a great movie, we're going to tell everybody about this great movie. If we get new shoes and we love them, they're comfortable and beautiful, we're going to tell everybody about the shoes. She goes, so we're always selling, but we don't get paid for it. Now you're just going to get paid for it. So find something you love, that you're passionate about it, and you're going to sell it because you love it. And Medicare came along. I didn't look for Medicare because I had no idea what Medicare was. But I think that was a God thing to me, because she came in and said, hey, do you want to do Medicare? And I'm like, what is Medicare? So I learned everything I needed to learn, and then I built my own brand. And building my own brand, I knew that when I had worked at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, that they didn't do a lot of marketing, that they built a brand with networking. They found something that was missing in the market, and that was when people wrecked their car, and people needed a car when it was wrecked. And so they went to all the dealerships. Exactly.
Yes.
And where they didn't have to spend a lot of money on advertising, they found a need and then built it. And that's kind of what I did, because nobody understands Medicare. It's very hard. I even wanted to quit 3 months in. I was like, I don't really think I'm ever going to understand this. And I tell my son, man, just think if I quit, there'd be no Medicare Misty,
That's
you
right.
know? And so that's how it built it from that. But people think, they see you now and they don't see the grind that it took. You can't just brand in 1 year. It took, I think my fascinating story we talked about at lunch is Starbucks. Everybody thinks Starbucks just put up an office and now they're multi-billion-dollar company all over the world. And that wasn't the case. I think it said 20 years that it took them to get who they were, and which is crazy. Their brand logo has nothing to do with coffee. It's a mermaid. I mean, it's so, but they built that brand in that coffee where it was a shop where you could come in and either meet, talk, and get some great coffee. And so I think that's where people miss the stars. They're like, oh, well, I'm not famous yet. I've been in it for 6 months and I'm not famous. I haven't built a brand. And so I want people to understand that, and we kind of talked about that it takes time to build, but once you build it, it will feed you for life. And I know there's things that happen like with Kodak that if you don't change Blockbuster, that you could lose it. They had options to go with the future, and they were too comfortable of where they were, not realizing this is where it's going for the future.
In that time frame, I remember Howard Schultz talking about how he could not convince investors or the people in his world that people would be willing to pay a lot of money for a cup of coffee. So they didn't have the vision.
Yeah.
And to hear you talk about trying to break into pharmaceutical sales 25 times, how many people would have quit at maybe number 2 or number 3 attempt?
Absolutely.
And just to have that perseverance and keep going to find your dreams. So
And that's exactly what it takes. And I always say, some people get defeated by no's after a while. It's just like, dang. But I see no is not right now. Not no forever, just not right now. And I take that as like next. I don't get like, I'm like, okay, not right now.
Right.
Who is right now? Next. And so I think when you build a business, even becoming a parent, we talked about that, you have to be thick-skinned and you have to persevere, like you said. And sometimes you don't have somebody pushing you. It's got to be you pushing you. And then, I'm a big God fan. So I'm like, Jesus, help me. Like, help me. Because sometimes I run on 3 hours. I don't know how. People are like, how do you never sleep? And it just has to be a bigger spirit than me.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about, because at the time that you were branching off to start your business, you're a single mom.
Yeah.
And I believe you said that you got laid off from your job. Kind of paint the picture for our listeners where you were in life when you had this opportunity to go into Medicare.
Well, and I will tell you, I'm going to start from the first time that I got laid off. It was really actually fired. I hate to even say that word. I had 3 car accidents at a company. And after 3 accidents, then you're let go. And so at that time was 2000, and I just found out that I was pregnant with my son. And so I kept applying for jobs. Well, then I was scared. Luckily, they can't say, hey, you're pregnant. And I didn't look pregnant at all. And so I went and waited tables with a college degree, pregnant, going, what in the world has this life? I mean, that's the bottom of the bottom. My friends would come in all with these nice jobs, buying their first home. I'm pregnant, single mom, waiting tables. And I tell you that just to know that if you're in that spot right now, this is where perseverance and humility to even come back and still do this. And I was applying for jobs still. And that's when I got the job at the insurance company downtown. And it was phenomenal. They couldn't ask that question. I was their top agent. I worked up until the day I popped, took my maternity leave, and then came back. And then that company laid our whole department off. And then that's where Medicare Misty kind of was born and got into the Medicare field. But it was never easy. I mean, people see you now. I mean, what you're doing, with your company. And then both y'all together, you didn't wake up like this. And I think that we don't share enough of the horror stories that it's not going to be easy. But I promise you that if you persevere through it on the other end, I believe God always rewards you for showing up. Sometimes I'm like, I don't feel like going to that networking event today. And then I meet the biggest client. And it's just, I'm like thinking, man, I was going to be in my pajamas today.
Right.
But I will tell you one thing that my grandpa always said to me, and I think it's his fault I don't sleep and I run at the speed I do. He's not here anymore, so he's probably up there going, ha, ha, ha. But he would come in on Saturdays to me and my brother, and he'd knock on the door, and it was 7 o'clock in the morning on Saturdays. Okay, Saturday is sleeping day or cartoon day when you're a kid.
Right.
Not with my grandpa. He would say, Missy Dawn's my middle name. He'd be like, Missy Dawn, are you sick? And I'd be like, no, Grandpa. And he goes, why aren't you up? I go, it's Saturday. He said, it don't matter. We got chores to do. Get up. You can sleep when you die. And he said that every Saturday morning to eventually he's probably saying, why did I have to come knock on your door every Saturday? I mean, you should have been up anyway. You know the rules. You know what we don't sleep in. So that is stuck in my head that I have so much to do on this earth before the end of time, because he said you can sleep when you die, which I don't think is true, because I think he's got us up there working. We become angels or something. There's no sleep.
More to come. More to come.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, one of the things that really jumped out at me when we were talking was a quote that you attributed to Zig Ziglar. Would you mind sharing with our listeners what that quote is and how that helped form and shape what you're doing?
Well, he always said, you help others get what they want, and then you in return get what you want. And I believe that in all my heart. And I can tell the story that sticks out the most. I have two, but my favorite is one of my friends was cooking for me. I had gotten really heavy because food is my drug. And I'd gotten really heavy, and I said, I've got to lose weight. I'm on TV, I'm on radio, and I'm now this plump. You know how Little Debbie went from being really cute? She ate all those Little Debbies. I think I helped her. I helped her eat all those Little Debbies. This is my sister from another minister. And so I'd gotten really heavy, and I said, I need you. I didn't want to do pills. I didn't want it not be healthy. I wanted to do it where it was a lifestyle. And so everybody said, if you will eat healthy, you can lose weight, even without exercising, which you should still exercise. But she had a restaurant. Her husband was from France, and they had a restaurant in France. And so they had cooked there. I said, if you could cook for me and make me satisfied, I will not cheat. And then I will lose weight because it's healthy. So she said, yes, that's a great idea. So I paid her to cook for me, started losing weight. Well, then we had a tornado that hit around 2020, which is when COVID hit. They lost their jobs. Their house got hit by a tornado. And then her husband died of a massive heart attack. This is like all within 3 months. You know, they always say it hits in threes. And she's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. They didn't have life insurance. And I said, okay, I got an idea. You're already cooking for me. Let's go and do a cooking show. I'll sponsor it. You buy the food. We'll build your brand. And now she's, dishing with Dawn. And that will then, and it gave me advertisement because seniors love cooking. They love recipes. And it gave me a chance. So it built both of our business massively to where now she can't even cook for me. She does find time. She did do my ribbon cutting the other day for our new office. So, but she can't do it regularly like she did before.
Sure. Yeah. And you just opened a new office in Eastridge.
Yes.
Yeah, congratulations.
And Red Bank's coming. Okay. We're under construction, but I'm excited about the Eastridge one.
Gotcha. Nice.
How wonderful to have a person in your life that's done so much for you personally with cooking for you and seeing their needs, increase through sad stories, and to be able to take your brand and help that person build her brand and pay it forward. So who in your past would you say poured into you that gave you the mindset to pour into Dishing with Dawn?
My grandma was always a key, both actually grandmas. One was a CPA. We didn't have that much of a relationship because she went back to Germany, so I didn't have money to call long distance. But now that she moved here, we've had a lot of time to catch up. And I think a lot of that DNA is from her because when she was a CPA, she also would pick strawberries or clean houses. I mean, she probably cleaned the floors on her hands and knees till she was like 70, or till she couldn't get up from the floor anymore.
Right.
And my other grandmother ran dry cleaners. And everybody, she would know, and I wish I could have had this from her. She met you one time and remember your name. I was just like, how do you do that? And she always says I rhyme. Like if it's Debbie, she'd be like, okay, little Debbie, little Debbie. She would remember some kind of thing that would help her remember their name. I tried, it never works. And maybe I'm not trying hard enough, and she always went above and beyond. Like I remember, she would sit and sew buttons on. And then one time she found $1,000 and my grandma they had no money. And she found $1,000 and put a note in it with his name saying, you better be careful next time. There's a cute little dress that I want, and she'd make jokes like it. But she always went above it. She would iron. If they came back and it wasn't ironed right, she would re-iron it. And I always saw how, she treated this business, even though she was running it, she didn't own it. She treated it like her own, and she treated everybody that came in. You felt special when you went into that dry cleaners. People came to just see her. And if she moved, because one of the places closed, so she moved clear across town, most of the clients came clear across town. But wouldn't you? I mean, extra button that you don't really have to do, you don't really see that a lot today. Extra ironing, that like, hey, they didn't do their job. She always showed me, even though she was building somebody else's business, that's how you do it. You go above and beyond and you treat somebody. And, the golden rule was you treat people how you want to be treated, but it's really you treat them how they want to be treated, because we all want to be treated differently. But I think going above and beyond showed me, her was the one, and the lady giving me the chance for Medicare that believed in me, and taught me everything I needed to know.
When you think about hard decisions that you've made along the way, finding yourself pregnant, finding yourself unemployed as a single mom, finding yourself facing not pharmacy as you had anticipated and chased, but getting into a role where you're selling insurance, or at least helping people understand insurance, all of those really hard decisions. And even today, you've been in it a couple of decades, but they're not easy decisions.
No.
To continue to evolve and make a business successful. So can you talk with our listeners about how you face hard decisions, how you feel that fear and do it anyway, not jump off the bridge, as Denise and I have joked about over time and in talking about candor and courage at work, but certainly in feeling the fear and facing and taking those necessary steps.
Well, and I love that, because I don't think people touch on that, because there is fear that is for your life, and there is fear that, okay, this is really scary. And it could be simple things. Like yesterday, I was telling you I was going to a meeting, and all of a sudden my heart just started beating 90 miles an hour. I started sweating, and I'm like, what is going on? And what I've learned through that, first I usually just pray, okay, God, help me for the strength to go through with this, because the first is exactly what you said. Turn around and go home. Like, they're going to know it. I'm going to fumble. I'm not going to be able to say the right words. When I persevere, it makes me become braver. It makes me become courageous for each move that I make in the business. The scary thought, I can't think of right now what is causing me to fear this. Because that's what you think about at a later time, because you don't have time to analyze it. You just go through it. And every time that I've gone through it, I become stronger and braver and more courageous. Every time I've made that decision, I didn't get hurt. I didn't get, beat up. I didn't say anything bad. And if I did, nobody remembered.
Right.
And so in business or anything that you're doing, if it's scaring you, that means it's big and it's going to be great. And maybe you're not going to do it perfect, because there's only one perfect person out there. But if you don't persevere, then you're stuck in that same position for years. Because I have always been told, if it's not scary enough, it's not big enough. You're not dreaming bigger. You're not doing bigger. So if you're scared, you're in the right place and you keep going. And I guarantee, I would love to hear the stories of, you're so right. I did what you said. I went through, and the contacts I made, how the next decision was easier, because it does get easier because you're doing those scary things. I mean, if it was easy, everybody would be a business owner.
That is
Everybody's
correct.
dreams would be true.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest dreams are in a cemetery because it went with them. And so you got to think about that. This is not going to keep me from my dreams, and it's not going to hurt that bad. Like in our head is telling us in our heart, and we're sweating.
Right. All those physical manifestations of fear.
Yeah.
And that's why we talk about being candid and developing the skill over time.
Right. Yeah.
By being candid
Yes.
and practicing, preparing, and so forth. And courage is the same way.
Yes.
Once you experience courage, you recognize it's a muscle, it's a skill like anything else.
Yeah.
And you can build on it and avoid those regrets.
I like that. Yeah. Because you didn't go in the gym being muscle.
That is absolutely correct. And you're going to get benefits on the back end. And so I think we've talked about in prior podcasts, just focus on where you want to be once you plow through and get through whatever fear or whatever is holding you back. Because I think if most people can look at it and say, what's the worst that can happen? It's not going to kill me. I can recover from embarrassment or things like that, but I don't want to live with regrets. So how do I get to the other side where I know there are benefits that I can see or foresee, but maybe there's benefits that I hadn't thought about that I'll achieve just by persevering?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what takeaways, Misty, would you like our listeners? What are the top 1, 2, or 3 takeaways you'd like our listeners to walk away with after hearing this episode?
So I think the biggest one is the fear one that we talked about. I'd rather live with, oh my goodness, this is really scary, than, oh, I regret not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I didn't become Medicare Misty overnight, and I didn't come with everything easy. There's always a scary moment to the next level. And my biggest saying is fear is a liar. Just totally it is. So when you're thinking it, fear is a liar, and persevere through that, because that I think is what holds most people back.
Yes.
Second thing is knowledge is powerful only if put into action.
Oh.
So all the self-help that we do, all the conferences that we do, I think about, Maggie, you and I have met, and I'm like, I want to take action on this. I want to finish. I want to be a good leader. I need to put action into it. I didn't take all this knowledge, take all these notes, and now what? I didn't put anything into action. Everything you taught me, I'm not putting it into action. And so I think on the conference end, we're talking about this lately, there needs to be a follow-up. What have you put into action?
Mm-hmm.
Because one, we shouldn't have to tell you that, because being a business owner, you're alone a lot. And you have to be able to be a disciplined person to take that information. And after you finish, say, I'm going to put these 2 things into action.
Yes.
And go for them, because it is, a ton of information. But put those 2 and try it. And are you going to fail? Absolutely. I failed. But I keep going. You find your niche, because my niche and your niche is going to be separate. Y'all's niches are separate than anybody else that, listens to the podcast at all. Mm-hmm. So that would be 2 things. And Maggie, you want to remind me what I said the third thing was?
Well, you've talked about the regret, not wanting the regret, and the knowledge, is power, but only if it's activated. But I think, and you touched on this earlier, every decision gets easier after the harder ones
That's
are
right.
made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, recognizing that is a skill that you build. I love that fear is a liar.
Yeah, I
love
do
that
too.
characterization. We may hear that again on the podcast going forward. We'll attribute that to Misty. But it's really been a pleasure to have you come and share with us today, and we really appreciate your time and insights for our listeners.
Yeah, just on a final note, I love what you were talking about, putting things into action, because we started the year talking about coming up with your action plan for yourself, and we talked about the importance of having an accountability accountability partner. So when you were just talking about, can we start the meeting or start our conversation with what steps have you taken? That is putting an accountability factor right into place. So taking us back to the beginning of the year, can't believe we're at August right now. So
crazy, crazy.
But again, I echo Maggie. Thank you so much. I have thoroughly enjoyed meeting you, hearing your stories, and I'll be calling Medicare Misty and looking for the website and making sure I have her telephone number. Or do you want to share your telephone number?
Yeah, MedicareMisty.com has it, but it's 423-777-5577. But you can go straight to the website and fill out a little form if you want to. Either way.
Well, look for my form because Medicare is around the corner for me.
Awesome. Well, thank you again.
Well, I'm honored to be asked and be here with you, lovely ladies.
Thank you for joining us today for Candor and Courage at Work.
We hope you found some inspiration and encouragement in today's episode.
For more information or to connect with us, visit our website, candorandcourageatwork.com, and be sure to download future episodes wherever you listen.